have been talking about George Millier, how he was working with Edwin S. We are talking about Edwin S. Potter, how he was working with Edison, Thomas Alva Edison, how he was watching George Millier's film, how he was very much influenced by Brighton School, where he was, very impressed by G.A. Smith and James Williamson films, and how he was like assimilating George Millier into it. Now, as I said that Thomas Alva Edison, George Millier and Brighton School, Brighton Studio, British Studio. Now, these three elements which have a profound impact on Edwin S. Potter, the the influence between among can be reciprocal, and the continuity editing, you know I must say, first, the interior and exterior intercutting between interior and exterior, that sort of a thing. And then when you talk about the very important, the first important film made by Edwin S. Potter is The Great Train Robbery. Basically, it is the life of a fireman, but I am talking about this Edwin S. Potter right now. So, when the life of a fireman, and then this film, The Great Train Robbery, came, and so he has basically borrowed from you know from these three people. And interestingly, Brighton Studio, from where he took inspiration to make, or he actually made a style for himself, even that studio, particularly a person called Cecil Hamsworth Chase film review, which was basically there is a film called Rescued by Rover, which was made in 1905. You know, so if Edwin S. Potter has borrowed from Brighton School, so Brighton School, the studio also took back or learned from Edwin S. Potter. And when I talk about this Rescued by Rover, which was made in 1905, and many critique actually regard it as the most expertly edited film produced prior to D.W. Griffith. So, you really understand the ecosystem when it comes to Edwin S. Potter. So, not only Edwin S. Potter learned, he gave it back, or the studio learned from Edwin S. Potter, and they made one of the best edited film prior to D.W. Griffith. Now, let us talk about one of the first most important films made by Edwin S. Potter, and the name of that film is The Life of an American Fireman, which was produced in 1902 and released in January 1903. Now, understand why this film is important. So, if you remember, when I asked you to watch George Millier films, sometimes I just mix names, because I keep on thinking simultaneously and talk to you. So, when I said about George Millier, A Trip to the Moon guy that I am talking about, I said that unless you don't see the films, it's difficult to believe that somebody was doing it in 1902. Now, Edwin S. Potter is also doing it in 1903. Please understand, it's like almost together. So, think of a time that he is like watching A Trip to the Moon. He is working on his own film, and that film is the life of a fireman, American fireman. The exact name is, The Life of an American Fireman, yes. Now think of it, what is going on. Now you have learnt, you have taken things from everywhere. Working with Thomas Alva Edison, not very easy task. You know, William Kennedy Laurie Dixon did not get his credit for almost 60 years. So tough person, tough individual. Now, what he does, what Edwin S. Potter he did, what he did, he took actual footage, he shot something, he put these two things together and made his film called The Life of an American Fireman. Now, you can say, Salim sir, why he took the footage which is technically actualities. If he had it, why did he shoot? If he was shooting, why he did not shoot it entirely? You know, there can be a lot of questions which I have been asked in my class. Now, there are few things. First, two films made by you, nobody knows about them. You know, important, everything fine, but even you and I don't remember his first two films made in 1901 and 1902. I'm talking about 1903 now. So what do? Now you experiment. What sort of an experiment you do? You put some found footage which is obviously recorded, which was recorded earlier. You shoot something, you have both the things, that what kind of a footage I have, what I will be shooting in mind, and then you know what to put where, you know. So, that sort of an idea you have, you know. Now, uh, the next thing that you remember Edwin S. Potter for is the innovation. What new are you, what is new in your film, you know, be that D.W. Griffith, Edwin S. Potter, be that George Méliès, everything, everybody had something new to offer. Obviously, they learned from the past. George Méliès learned from his background, from Lumiere brothers, and he discovered something new. Edwin S. Potter learned from Lumiere, George Méliès, and created something new. And D.W. Griffith learned something from all these people and created something new. Now, in the concluding sequence of the film, The Life of an American Fireman, he exactly did what, you know, if you remember, I talked about parallel editing, you know, transitioning from an exterior shot to an of a building to an interior shot, and running and returning to the exterior shot. If you remember that I talked about this thing. Now, this is something that this is the experiment that he did in the concluding shot of the film. Now, the widely circulated cross-cut version of the film is basically available. You can see that on, you can Google it, you can see it on YouTube. That's not a problem. But let's see what is there, you know. If you watch The Life of an American Fireman, imagine that this is the frame. Now, imagine hardly 33% of the frame that you are looking at right now. So, I am somewhere in the 33% of the frame, somewhere like this, and 66% of the frame is covered by a ring, you know, a balloon which is later called a dream balloon. So, there is a person lying in his chair, and he is dreaming of his wife and daughter, and it's like one scene, you know. So, it goes like this: the fire chief asleep, dreaming of his wife and child, who appears in a circular vignette at the upper right hand corner of the screen. Potter might have invented this device, later called the dream balloon. Okay. So, this is the very first scene, you know. Please remember, I said first scene. Okay. So, the scene is that the camera is like this, I am in the 33% part of the shot. Obviously, head space has to be higher, margin has to be bigger, and 66% of the frame is occupied by one circle, where I am dreaming that my wife and child, she is preparing him to the bed, and I am just dreaming, I am happy, and something like this happens. Now the next shot, now the next scene, I am restraining myself, calling it a shot. I'll tell you why I'm doing that. Now the close up of a fire alarm box, and an anonymous hand pulling its lever. Now all the other shot. Now interestingly, it is not me who is claiming this. This is what most of the critiques have said, that probably the first close up in American cinema to be completely integrated with its narrative context. Now somebody, now think of that, if I am writing a screenplay and I said that somebody switches on the alarm, obviously now I have to switch on. Somebody, earlier it was either you have to lever up or lever down. So somebody levers down in that particular film to for the horn to be blown. So somebody levers it down, somebody first opens it, unscrew it, and then levers it down, and suddenly there is a siren in the fire station that a fire has, somewhere there is fire, and you have to get ready to rescue people from that fire. Now imagine these two scenes. One, that a chief 33, when I say 33% frame and 66% frame where the circle is there, please go and watch. Then you will understand what do I mean by 33% of the frame, 1/3 of the frame obviously, 2/3 of the frame when I say that this dream balloon is there. And so imagine watching that film in 1903, what people have not seen earlier. You are taken by the very first shot, then a close up, and critics claim that it is probably the first close up in American cinema to be completely integrated with the narrative context. Now the scene number 3 says, interior of fireman dormitory with men waking up, dressing, sliding down the pole, and then getting ready. Now please understand, observe that I am saying scene number 3, scene number 4. Now this gets interesting. Now scene number 4 says, interior, ground floor of the firehouse, actually an outdoor set with the pole in the center upon which no one has yet appeared. Workers harness the horses to the engine, and the fireman finally slides down to the pole from above at the conclusion of the scene. Imagine, I would say rather listen to this, put your phone, open this and start watching film on the other screen. Then you will understand what I am talking about. Then the exterior of the firehouse, as the doors are flung open and the engines charge out. Now this is very interesting, stock footage as well, apparently, since it's snowing in the scene but nowhere else in the film. Now this is something that is very interesting. Now what is the purpose of you listening to this lecture? You want to hone your skills. Now why do you want to hone your skills? Because you want to perform better. Now why do you want to perform better? Because you want to create good work. Now why do you want to create good work? So that you get good marks, so that you start working, people appreciate you, it becomes your job, you become professional, people really like your work, you are appreciated, you are paid for it, and you make a name for yourself. Now when I was doing the workshop in college, I said I chose 2 people from the group, you know, one protagonist, one antagonist, though it was very not very clear, because it was only a scene that who is the protagonist and who is the antagonist. So, rather the antagonist was beaten in the scene and protagonist had some own issues. So, I, because it was the first filmmaking workshop for many of my students, so they were watching shooting, you know, film, set, lights, camera for the first time. I shot it on Blackmagic 6K Pro with all possible good lights, and the entire classroom was lit up. So, it was an interior shot. Now, as I said, it says stock footage as well, apparently, since it's snowing in the scene, but nowhere else in the film. Now, what does it mean? That Edwin S. Potter is using a stock footage. So, in the stock footage it was snowing, Edwin S. Potter was shooting the snow, obviously it was not the winter season. So, in one shot you have snow, go check it out, you will love it, and you will say ha 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 ha, continuity jerk, you know, whatever it is, whatever you call it, but he is making something of a world, a product which is which will be known in the world. Now, so he is using he is you know, making the use of stock footage. Now, suburban street, the next scene says suburban street scene, 8 engines rush up, past the camera from right to left, passing a crowd of bystanders. And then you have a street scene, 4 engines rush past the camera, which pan involves horizontal on its vertical axis, has slightly to follow the fourth, and comes to rest on the front of a burning house. Now, up till here it is absolutely fine, you know, people were doing it, there was nothing so remarkable about it, you know, the found footage. Now, what happens from this point onwards makes the difference. Now, it is a game of interior and exterior. Now, it becomes a game of exterior and interior, and which most of the people think was Edwin S. Potter, but only you know from where the inspiration was taken. You know, that is the advantage of learning from CEC actually. So, you know a few more things than others do. Now, this interior exterior game is what makes the life of an American fireman so interesting. So, the mother and child in the house upstairs, room filled with smoke. The mother approach an upstairs window and calls for help, which is taken from exterior. Interior, it goes in interior, the woman collapses on the bed, and from exterior point of view, a fireman enters to the front door. Then interior, the same fireman runs into the room through a door at the right and breaks the window, you know. Now, very interesting here again, what I, you know, don't want to break the flow, but it is compelling me to talk about continuity so much that I have written it that you know, the window which was open in shot 9 and 11, but closed in 8 and 10. You know, so this is what precisely we were talking about in the filmmaking workshop, that I said, look, we are creating a scene which in film has a duration of 2 minutes, you know, the scene of a classroom, something happens there. So, I said, but how these 2 minutes are translated on screen, you will get to know it today. They said, fine, fine sir, we will do it sir, not a problem sir, we will sit here throughout the day. You know, they were like this, we will sit here throughout the day. I said, fine, let me see how many of you are there by the end of the shoot. So, I knew that some goof ups are bound to happen. So, I took my safety shot well in advance, but by the time I was stuck in one particular shot, one particular you know shot where I needed a certain angle, which was like there were 4 rows in the class, and the angle was such that the protagonist was sitting in the second row and the background was of third and fourth row, and obviously of those students only which were there in the angle of the view. And trust me, it was around 4 o'clock in sort of an evening, and I was like, where are those people? I had, because they are my students, so I still have their number. So I called them up, everyone. Somebody was in canteen, somebody was somewhere else. I said, it is your shot. I said, no sir, they said, no sir, it cannot be. I said, why it cannot be? Well, they said, sir, the angle of the master shot was such that maybe we were excluded. I said, no, you were not excluded. It was a master shot. Everybody was included. Now the shot, the camera of angle is such, not the camera of angle, sorry, the angle of view is such that you are somewhere, though you are out of focus, but you have to be there. So then they realize the importance of continuity editing. So that is what I tell them, that right now this lecture is going in real time in space. But imagine if you have to shoot this particular lecture throughout the day. Now the continuity is bound to be disturbed, and maintaining that is an art. And that is what exactly happening in shot number 12, scene number 12, where window is open in 9, close in 8, open in 9, close in 10, open in 11. Then the fireman on the ground places a ladder against the broken window, which is obviously from exterior. The interior, the fireman carries the woman to the ladder which has appeared at the window. Exterior says the fireman and the woman descend the ladder. The next scene says the fireman enters the window by the ladder and picks up the child. Next is exterior. From exterior, the woman becomes hysterical. Interior, the fireman exits through the window with the child. Exterior, the fireman descends the ladder with the child and reunites it with the mother. Interior, fireman enters the room through the window to extinguish the fire with the hose. Now the intercutting 7 shots of an interior with 7 shots of an exterior is what makes The Life of an American Fireman such a popular film, or I can say the Potter, a Potter appeared to attain for the first time in the cinematic history a distinctive form of narrative omniscience that can only be done with cinema, which is only possible in the art form of cinema, and in no other art forms of the world this can be maintained. This reality, the interaction between two realities, which is one is interior and one is exterior, most of the people did not see it. They saw it for the first time in The American Fireman. No other media allow for this switch, this swift interchange of several perspectives without compromising the point of view. Now, this The Life of an American Fireman, which was made in 1903, introduced the narrative technique of Millier and the Brighton School to American cinema. That is what The Life of an American Fireman, The Life of an American Fireman did to American cinema, which is like Hollywood. That it not only incorporated France, George Méliès, Britain, Brighton School, and Edwin S. Potter was there, So, Life of an American Fireman is therefore such an important film. I'll be talking about his next film, what is the Great Train Robbery, very soon. Thank you very much.